one strong in my family. My dad has it. My uncle has it. And I think I might have it. I bet you do not.
That's a scene from a project called Lego Mando. That's the tentative working title, which would eventually change along with most of the script. We set out to make a parody of The Mandalorian using Lego to tell the story. And when I say we got serious, I really mean it. The fun part was building the sets that we would use. Initially, we wrote only characters from the real Mandalorian, like Carl Weathers. But we expanded the cast of characters and even lined up vocal talent in preparation. But I had concerns over YouTube's lax stance on fair use and parody. Basically, the fair use umbrella is what normally protects you in situations where you use intellectual properties in a transformative way, such as parody. In the United States, it's the law of the land, but not in YouTube land. Disney has claimed monetization even on films that follow the rules. For those reasons, and reasons I'll explain in a minute, Lego Mando has been shelved. But the developments made gave me a ton of confidence in economical animation. This is the scene that proved we can accomplish it because it was completed in less than 1 hour, 52 minutes to be a little more exact, for over 360 frames of animation. But invisible things are happening here that allow for quick animation. In today's video, we're going to explore stop-motion animation and look at techniques to give you a lot of mileage out of your frames without a lot of effort. But we're not just going to talk about Lego, we're going to get into a mix of tools and techniques. Craftman is out here with my tripod taped to the floor, which means we must be doing some animation. I like to tape my focus ring also, in anything I might bump into or nudge. But look at this backdrop. It's all wrinkly, but you know, it's going to be out of focus, hopefully so, you know. But what about our gentleman right here? And how is he able to hit a pose and stand like that? Because it's not just an ordinary figure. This is Stickybones. And what's that shiny thing, Craftman? That is a magnetic surface, which will very much come in handy after we assemble the figure. The plastic is fairly rigid. It has some density to it, some weight, you know, some hefty. And we got lots of pieces. So we should be able to do lots of articulations. All the way down to the fingers. Check out that double ball joint. Sean. I like that. I want you to notice something. Something about the sizing of individual joints on Stickybones. That's pretty neat. The joints are all sized much bigger at key points. The ankle joint is where you can really see how the ball joint sizing was very clearly thought about. Larger joints provide enough surface area to keep the joints holding on strong. And we've just got our magnetic base from earlier, y'all remember? Hidden underneath some construction paper. and maybe some pencil marks to keep track of where the feet start out at. And next, we're going to take a look at references. I screen recorded this video of John Rubin dancing, and I want to see if there's a loop part. There kinda is. Look, see that? Watch that. See? The end of the loop doesn't 100% match that right there, see? That right there. But we can get by with it. Craftman wanted to get a little fancy and also animate the lights. And what I mean by that, we want the lights to switch colors back and forth between blue and purple. Now, we could always just write down the frame numbers as well as the color values, when to change it. By the way, I really like these Pixel RGB photo lights, G1S right here. I got a few of them, really like them. Anyway, instead of writing stuff down, I simply put colored squares right in my reference video to visually show me when to change the color values. That's one major tip for economy right there, is put work into your reference video. I animate using Dragon Frame, which I believe is the industry standard, but reference videos are supported by most animation software. And don't limit yourself with your reference. You can rough composite in additional references for every character or element that you wish to animate. It might seem like using the references or overlay is the way to go, but I found this to be a potential pitfall, because what happens is it muddies up your view and can cause you to miss little mistakes. Like that right there. What I prefer to do instead is the flip-flop, the swap, the back and forth. It's similar to how a traditional 2D animator would flip back and forth drawings. In Dragon Frame, it's called auto toggle. In my opinion, it gives you a smoother and more expressive animation than if you tried to rotoscope or trace it. It will also allow you to see erroneous movements, like if you bump into something by mistake. You can also use onion skinning, which shows what you already shot ghosted against what you're about to shoot. I still prefer auto toggle over onion skinning, but wanted to be sure you knew about it. The real-time toggle view also makes it easy to do my favorite stop-motion technique: replacement. By replacing all or part of your character with a different object that has some similar to it, alright, you can economically accomplish things like motion blur. And another tip is to have all your replacement pieces prepared in advance, alright? You don't want to be trying to build a map and then, stick it on there. You want to have them ready to go. But to really get the most out of each frame, always look for opportunities to use repetition. As long as you can begin and end your movement at approximately the same points, then effectively you have a loopable animation. Here we have only 11 frames being played indefinitely. The loop is certainly not perfect, alright, but even if you can loop just one extra time, that's twice the payback for your effort. And if you can separate your subject from the background, then you get even more mileage. Here's a running dog sequence I cut out on the Atomstack X20 laser. I shot the dog's frames against black so that I could animate a moving background. I'm using a little piece of paper right there, see, to help me keep my distance incrementation even. So I just slide it down. Here's our background with a little motion blur edit. Here's a little doggy, and here's both of them. Repetition. Here's another tip. Reconsider whether you need to use Lipsync. It's possible to do Lipsync in camera, as we've covered this before, but have you considered a helmet? Putting our main character in a helmet was the only way I would even attempt such a dialogue-heavy script. The more you can do in camera, the better. But please be advised that you can straight up do the lip sync on the computer. If you do, remember to color match the blackness, roughen the edges, and add a little blur to make it look realistic. There's a link to these mouth shapes in the description. Also, here's another tip. The next one I sort of hate to say it because it's gonna upset some filmmakers, but remember, you can fix it in post. I use Rectify to keep everything starting with an R. But here's the truth. Remember the cantina scene? It looks relatively smooth, right? As far as animation, smooth enough for stop motion. But now I'm about to reveal how it actually looked before post-processing. Look at this mess. I wanted to make sure I show you all this because what I didn't want to happen was for you to start animating and then bump into something halfway through and think,
oh, I ruined it, I'm bad at this.
No. Anytime you run into a situation where you think you wasted 52 minutes, recall back to Craftman fixing some janky shake animation using a single still frame and simple masking to blend my static stationary still footage with the animated elements. It can be better, but that only took about 2 minutes. And here's another tip. Record you a little Foley, aka sound effects. I literally just use me a coffee can for the helmet sound.
And I think I might have it.
Then I took me a glove and just put a bunch of just, objects in it, random things. It got me some little rustling, jangling sounds, alright? Sound is 50% of the experience, but it's 100 times easier to do than to capture animation. If 20 or 30 seconds of sound effects recorded will make your animation half much better, twice as good, why not just go ahead and record you a little sound effects? And finally, to anyone who might be thinking, Craftman, I don't have Dragon Frame. I don't have a DSLR camera. That's alright. Look, check out my friend Rude Panda over here making high quality animation using a mobile phone. Look at that. What a fantastic setup that is. Wonderful quality work right there.
What's a cooking, Craftman? Cooking.
How about some exciting news? Atomstack saw your comments about laser safety and sent over a housing for my Atomstack X20. And I have to tell you, y'all were absolutely right. I feel way safer now with the right color light shield. And the difference in air quality out here is night and day now. And for the first time in a couple 3 years, Steady Crafting is gearing up for a new figure release. The Pocketnaut molds have been manufactured and should be arriving next week, so we're working on packaging. Craftman is out here trying to be professional with color palettes. The Pocketnaut has been in the works for a while and is becoming a reality thanks to a YouTube collaboration with some fantastic professionals. Although I'm taking a break from animation, it's not because I don't want to animate. It's my favorite thing to do, one of them. It's just because, speaking of economy, steady crafting has to make a move that makes more business sense than animation does at this time. As far as videos go, I'm thinking we need to get back to basic videos. And I think Craftman gonna be able to get that old energy back. Special thank you to Stickybones for sending over this wonderful figure. Really more of a professional tool than a figure. Alright. It can be used for sculpting, it can be used for drawing reference, it can be used for storyboarding, for planning, character conceptualization, and much more beyond animation. Look at that leg can fold up into itself. Thank you so much for your patience with me, and thank you for choosing one of my videos. Until next time, I love y'all, and keep on steadily crafting. All right.